gentlemen, next up on our agenda, we continue the conversation on the digital economy. We are going to look at understanding the digital economy in the Caribbean. And leading that session is Sarah Radikissoon. Sarah is a digital transformation strategist. She works with agencies, startups, and global enterprises alike. She's an expert in digital strategy, analytics, conversion rate, organization, growth, and more. She was the head of financial services at Digicel, responsible for the strategic direction, vision, and growth of their mobile wallet application products in Trinidad and Jamaica. Prior to this, she is known for her success at Unicoma Caribbean, specifically the growth of their consumer finance business, with special focus on the digital transitioning of customers to mobile application products. So Sarah has quite a diverse range of Caribbean experience, and we very much look forward to the conversation that we are about to have. Sarah, welcome.
Hi, Renata. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. And we just had a conversation with Stephen. Hopefully he helped lead a bit of our foundation for our talk. And the first question that we had for you as we seek to understand the digital economy in the Caribbean, what is a digital economy? And beyond the definition, how does it really work in the Caribbean space?
So I would say the digital economy is an extension of our current traditional economy. It uses digital networking and communication infrastructure to provide a platform over which people and organizations can do business. So to simplify it, it converts things in the physical world to a piece of information, a data point. And I would say the most common examples we have are like Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, and those are examples of organizations that convert physical items into or things into data points in which customers can purchase. And on the Caribbean side, we see, unfortunately, not a large presence of this, but we see it in organizations like Food Drop. Excellent Stores now has an online platform in Trinidad. We see PriceSmart has an online platform, and then maybe on the smaller end, we see a lot of restaurants and even in the healthcare space, we definitely are starting to see that emerging in the Caribbean.
What is driving the adoption?
What is I would say right now the changing facet of the Caribbean consumer. Right now, the Caribbean consumer is not who they used to be. They want items more instantaneously. They want things customized, more, I would say, contextualized to their situation. And when I say the customer, I don't just mean me and you. I mean business to business customers as well. I would also say the nature of things, right? So, the last number I have in front of me is 77% is smartphone penetration in the Caribbean, and just from persons around me, I'd probably assume it's much larger than that. And even further to that, I would say the amount of
I hope that Sarah comes back on very soon.
Hi, sorry, Renata. I'm calling live from a hotel, and it seems to be a glitch in the internet.
And telecommunications is essential to powering all of this with the digital economy and everything else we've discussed.
Yeah, actually, I'm also extremely jet lagged because I was part of this travel get on that's making the news. So I got in at 4 a.m. this morning. Connecting to the digital economy and how we purchase things online, there seems to be a lot of chaos happening in the world right now. I was saying, so further to that is also the falling costs of mobile phones and access to the internet. And now the concept of the internet is becoming utilitarian. It's a utility in every household. It's the equivalent of water and electricity. So what's driving the push for more access to the digital economy in the Caribbean is that the nature of the Caribbean consumer and our access to digital outlets that we never really had before.
Thank you. What are some of the challenges facing the digital economy in the Caribbean? I think you may have just entered yourself into that conversation by making that point.
Well, first and foremost, it's our robust regulations. Across the Caribbean, I think our central banks are now getting on board with the concept of virtual money and mobile wallets. And our legislation with regards to that is a little bit more robust than the rest of the world. So it provides challenges for companies to come to market and compete with global players. Maybe I would say also digital infrastructure. There are parts of the Caribbean that are still without the infrastructure that is needed to run the internet and have a sufficient amount of I mean, definitely less spaces than more. I mean, Caribbean is definitely a much more advanced place than people make it out to be. But there still is those gaps. The ability for, I guess, customers to be trusting of this product because it's still new to us, especially from a money standpoint. I would say that that's definitely one of the challenges facing is the Caribbean customer adoption of this product is trust, an overarching digital development strategy. So one of the major things that we underestimate with a company like Amazon, for example, is that yes, they seem as if they're a huge online platform, but to be honest, that's probably one of the smallest advantages to a company like that. What's big about a company like that is the huge logistical monster behind them, and it's the ability to connect that type of strategy with an e-commerce platform that's still kind of new to the Caribbean.
Thank you so much for that. In your bio, you have a statement that struck a chord with me, and I would like you to elaborate on that. 21% of all Trinidadians have no financial identity or credit score to speak of. I am passionate about helping the financially underserved. And I appreciate that that is your passion, but also is it that the financially underserved are the ones who can also benefit from the digital economy?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Maybe I should dig further into the question you asked before with regards to challenges. Like another one of the challenges would be low digital payment penetration. So how you interact with an Amazon or how you interact with PriceSmart online or Food Drop or etc. is using a Visa debit card, a Visa credit card, Master credit card, etc. So all these companies do is they set up a payment gateway, and then you as the customer has to interact with this payment gateway via some form of payment. And it's your ability to have access to that in the first place that now that you need to get out of the way in order for you to participate in the digital economy. So coming back to that statement that 21% of people are what we would say as unbanked, and 21%, to be honest, but is still not a bad number. So I don't want to make us seem as if we're totally out of it with regards to financial inclusion, but there is still 21% of us that does not have a financial identity, that is not banked. And then within the 80% of persons who are banked, there's a particular portion of Trinidadians that are underbanked. So meaning that they have a bank account, but they don't really use it to its full potential. They don't have credit cards, and there's definitely a room for improvement. And when that improves, then we have more access to participate on what is the current digital economy. But more and more, the space is changing internationally. So, for example, there's a company called Tala, which is a lending company in all over the world, and their focus is lending to people who you would not typically lend to. So, for example, they lend in far reaches of Africa and India where um, you could really only truly only communicate with people via smartphone. There isn't a lot of infrastructure, etc. And I mean, their technology is highly invasive, right? So how you would normally onboard a banking customer, which is via some sort of KYC form, they onboard via access to your phone. So they look at, your call logs. So to Renata, you say, "Hey, I'm a teacher," and from some software that they run through your phone, they kind of verify that information. So it depends on where your opinion is with regards to privacy and access. But on this topic, I kind of sway to them because of just that ability it gives somebody who would normally not have any access, who has educational gaps or generally intimidated by banking, to have more access and without a credit card, without a credit score, without any real credit history. And it's now slowly letting them build that. So definitely, yes, to answer your question, I see a connection with the expanding digital economy and letting the people of the Caribbean be more financially included in a very basic sense. Before we even talk about cryptocurrency and all of these more complicated things, there's still a foundation with regards to financial literacy that needs to be expanded.
Thank you for that. And that in itself is a huge benefit of having a cashless economy. Are there other benefits that we should be aware of?
I think for sure I would say, well, currency fraud, for example. If there's cashless, there's no currency to fraud, right? There's no cash fraud to happen. There's definitely more transparent systems, more frictionless payments, effortless payments, and definitely you allow businesses who would not normally have the opportunity to participate on an international scale, the ability to do so. So now somebody sitting at home in Barbados or Jamaica or Trinidad can, because they're participating in digital economy in a cashless environment, they can participate with somebody who wants to buy their product from South Africa, from America, from wherever, otherwise would not have had the opportunity. And there's also an element of lower risk, and this is also quite a controversial opinion, but so there are two schools of thought, and one of them being you can easily block a credit card and flag an issue with a bank, versus if Renata steals your cash, it's hard to find Renata and get back that actual physical cash. I mean, obviously there are other disadvantages to risk and whatever, but I'm answering in the vein of answering your question as to what are the advantages. These.
Thank you. What should Caribbean business owners educate themselves about regarding the digital economy? If I'm a business owner, what should I know?
Well, one for sure, you should try to understand the changing customer landscape. My younger brother, who in my brain is sometimes 15 years old, was explaining to me recently that he's been reading on managing the Gen Z. And I was just reading on managing millennials. So, so I think the nature of customers and the psychology of customers are changing on a daily basis, and educating yourself on that is key. Like as we discussed earlier, customers want contextual and personalized business. I definitely do. Like, so I would shop 10 years ago on people's advice as to, okay, well, this is a more quality product, this brand is a good brand, etc. Whereas now I find myself shopping where it's easier, where the whether it's a small place or a larger organization, wherever it's easier and it works out for me faster, that's where I lean towards. And I think more and more customers think like that, right? So from a business perspective, I would say that it's key for business owners to educate themselves with regards to that. I would also talk about acquisition costs and understanding the impact of social media, email, WhatsApp, and other avenues like that we business owners know if they adapt to these types of methods, their cost of customer acquisition can be significantly lowered. And then, as I mentioned before, I would say the coordination of, which I think is probably the biggest thing, the coordination of supply chain and inventory with your e-commerce platform. So connecting your, yes, it's nice to have a fancy website and onboard your customers in one direction, but then the other side of the P&L, which is how do you make sure that you get that quality product out in a timely fashion, get payment, and connect the entire loop.
Gotcha. And as a business owner, do I need to ensure that someone on my team, for example, has the skill set to deal with this? Do we have the skill sets in the Caribbean to innovate and to implement to support the digital economy?
Well, my answer to do we have the skill set in the Caribbean, ... is always yes. Um, I think that we have the skill set to do anything. Um, but to answer your specific question, definitely for sure, supply chain. Maybe not depending on the nature of your business. You may vary on how sophisticated you want that person to be or on that topic, but from whether you run a mom and pop small shop to a large, a large white goods store, supply chain is part of your life. Whether you run a spa, whatever, supply chain is part of your life. So understanding it to that detail and having somebody on your team who does is incredible. And then connecting that to how customers are onboarded is also key, I would say.
Thank you for that. Just looking at the headlines in the news today, and I'm going to share them with you and the audience. Indian digital economy to reach $1 trillion by 2025, says Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister said that the key pillar of India's current economic recovery is technology-led growth and government's innovation-friendly policy. Meantime, coming out of Dubai, and these are the headlines, Dubai's next priorities include boosting the digital economy and access to new markets, and that's from Sheikh Hamdan. Dubai will promote an attractive and competitive environment for investment that improves the ease of doing business, contributing to the increasing foreign trade volumes and developing its digital economy sector, the Dubai Crown Prince said today. So we're in the Caribbean, but we're also seeing these global trends. But based on the two examples I just read from, that's government driven. What's the will of our government to lean towards the digital economy to take us to the next step or next level?
I mean, unfortunately, with the intentions of all governments, and I don't want you to trap me into making any political statements, but but I would say across the Caribbean, the mandate is probably very common. Everybody is saying things with regards to, hey, let's get our digital economy in our country expanded. Whether that's being put to action, it's entirely different, and it's varying by country. So in Barbados, you're seeing a lot of movement. I would agree. What are you seeing is in the rest of the Caribbean? I'm not sure. Is it coming? I do think so. I do think so that it is coming.
Got you, and thank you very much for that. And absolutely no intent to put you on the spot. So your overarching comments we do appreciate. But having said that, what are some of the trends that you have seen in the Caribbean in regards to the acceptance of the digital economy?
I would say,
and I know you monitor this, so.
Well, I think we touched on it a little bit, but I would definitely, what I spoke to before with regards to an increasing smartphone penetration, falling cost of mobile phones and connectivity, customers seeing in the internet as a utility cost versus a luxury good. That's definitely changed. I would also say our ability to compile and collect, like, I mean, that's happening all over the world, but I would say that I'm seeing it differently in businesses now. Our ability to collect large amounts of data and to use it to drive decision making. And definitely on in various industries in the Caribbean, we're seeing changes. So, like, for example, you would use a realtor now who, how he uses social media, how he uses even, like, virtual reality, how a realtor uses Google Maps. Like, definitely, by industry we are seeing different trends, and different breakthroughs.
Thank you very much for that. One question coming out of well, I won't say the chat because it was sent directly to me. What are the key features of the digital economy?
Um,
Main attributes.
I would maybe the key feature, the big headline statement is the digital economy's ability to convert a thing, a physical product, or maybe even a service, into a data point. So the ability for somebody to access a product or service virtually and from any place in the world, and from the comfort of your own home, and then access that good.
And we have another question here. They may have missed the beginning, but can you define the digital economy and the real applications for our region? Again, we sort of touched on that at the start, but can you specifically define the digital economy?
Sure. The definition would be an extension of the traditional economy using digital networking and communication infrastructure to provide a platform over which people and organizations can do business. And
That sounds like if we were writing a CSEC or CAPE thing, we will perhaps pass for giving a good definition.
Well,
So fair enough.
yeah, so I mean, how we define any economy is a space in which we can trade goods or services. Like, if you want me to break it down further, and the digital economy is a platform in which we can now trade goods or services, and exchange one service for money, a product for money.
Which leads us straight into the other question I've received. What are the risks associated with the digital economy? And remember, you're talking to an audience of accountants, so we can't get away from talking about risk.
I would say, so, without getting too much into the detail of it, but there's definitely risks for identity theft. There's risks for fraud. I mean, the vessel in which you're transacting, right? So your phone, your laptop, by losing these items, depending on the security settings you have on it, those are the kind of risks you see. From an adoption perspective, the ability for a person to be tech savvy. We also have overspending. Overspending is a huge consequence of the digital economy as well. Like, how you would spend from your wallet versus how you would spend from your credit card on your Amazon account are very different. And then also, lastly, I would say your personal data now changes, right? Like, your personal data is no longer personal. The minute you interact with a virtual buyer, you have lost some of your personal data.
Other question. How can the digital economy improve upon my business model?
I would say large widening of your customer catchment. So a brick and mortar store kind of limits you to an area, to a region, and then it's blocked by the abilities of a person to access you, right? So if you're in a high traffic area, in an area that's difficult to get to, whereas by putting your business on a virtual space, you've now widened the abilities for customers to access you. You've probably even cut certain steps of your customer onboarding, um, and your ability to showcase and advertise your goods in real time.
Does anything govern the digital economy, Sarah? Do we have involvement of the central bank? Are there any policies globally or otherwise?
I don't know if this is my expertise, so I'm not sure if I could
Mm-hmm.
comment on that properly. I do know from like a financial perspective, in from the Trinidad perspective, we have like an e-money act that
Okay.
is very robust. It's very robust, and it's still being challenged by a lot of people. From an e-commerce perspective, I wouldn't be able to answer the question. It's not necessarily my forte with regards to regulations.
Okay. No problem, and fair enough. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Um, I guess two other questions we have on the cards. In the news recently, officials say this digital currency or digital economy would help to foster economic development and propel the Caribbean single market and economy, which is, of course, near and dear to all of us, while enhancing financial inclusion in the region. Thoughts?
You broke up, Renata. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Or sure. In the news recently, officials say this digital currency will help to foster economic development and propel the Caribbean single market and economy while enhancing financial inclusion in the region. Thoughts?
Sure. I think we touched on this as well earlier. Definitely, there's still a lot of persons who are challenged by the banking sector of the Caribbean, whether they want to actively participate or the banks themselves don't want them to participate. And so there are many people who are intimidated by banking or for whatever reason wouldn't be allowed in our banking space. Our banking space in the Caribbean is typically very conservative. So being in digital currency and participating with wallets on digital space is definitely going to add to financial inclusion in the Caribbean. Like I feel like more people will definitely have more access to funds, to lending, to banking, and just growing their wealth on a larger scale.
Thank you so much. And we have so many examples, I think, across the Caribbean in terms of seeing such wallets at work. If you can tell me a little bit about what transpires in Guyana. I know you spend some of your time there as well,
Yeah.
and that wallet has long been in use, a very, practical use with paying bills, etc. We're also hearing about the Carib dollar, Carib coin. Any comments about these innovations?
For sure. So it's what I would like to comment on as well is what I speak to with regards to the overarching space that we consider to be in when we speak about a virtual space. So similar to me saying that that Amazon's greatest power is its logistical powerhouse behind them, not necessarily the front-facing website. That's what I think a lot of mobile wallets deal with. So, for example, MMG is the main wallet in Guyana, which is quite a powerful wallet. And as you said, it allows you to pay your bills, to pay many vendors. The other side of it is that you have to load your wallet and cash out your wallet, right? And how you do that in most countries is at an agent, so meaning at a shop or a grocery, etc. And if you want to cover the geographical diaspora of a country, you need to get a wide varying sets of agents. So you need to have agents who live up to particular standards. And in varying countries, so like in Trinidad, for example, the criteria for you to become an agent to cash in and cash out, according to the Act, is very, very, very robust. It's asking for audited financials and varying things along those lines. And if you have like a small shop, more than likely, not more than likely, definitely you're not going to get that. So that removes them from the equation. So MMG, for example, is I find to be one of the most active wallets in the Caribbean, simply because as well, Guyana's legislation with regards to e-money is probably the most, their view is probably the most open. And so to answer your question, I think we need to kind of really look into supporting these wallets and thinking through how exactly do we access them.
Yeah, and I guess this also goes back to the popularity of that wallet. And to that quote that you had in your bio, the unbanked and the underserved are the ones who are using this. But for even those who have banking facilities, I think they've come to appreciate the convenience of such wallets.
Yeah. And so for example, I'll say this, right? Like I pay, there are certain bills in my life that I pay with cash, right? So the guys who would like my contractors, people who do stuff around my house, like you pay those persons typically in the Caribbean via cash. And if you had the ability to switch to pay them with an app, with a cash app, you would, right? And just kind of touching back on what I said before, like one of the obstacles to that is the ability to load cash onto those apps and cash out onto those apps. So like somebody who I want to pay via a mobile wallet, would he be interested in it? Yes. But what's the major thing for him to be interested in it? His ability to access his money out of this app. And across the Caribbean, the legislation is not really supportive of having a wide access of points in which you can cash out of these apps.
Got you. Thank you so very much. And Sarah, we'll wrap up our conversation by asking you, what are your predictions for the future of a cashless Caribbean economy? Are we there yet? And if not, when are we looking at?
We're not there yet.
Okay. Step one. All right.
We're not there yet.
Are we getting there?
Yeah, we're slowly getting there, you know. I will say this. Last night in you know, I guess not necessarily in preparing for this, but something came up on my Instagram. A young girl who's like, I need to go find her back, 16, 17 years old. And her profile is such that she's a gamer. And that's all so she's a Caribbean gamer. And which I find to be quite revolutionary, right? A young girl who's a Caribbean gamer, and she made a post about, you know, why is there not a cash app in Trinidad such that she can buy things virtually on these games? Because, you know, on these games you can purchase. I mean, I'm not very familiar, but you purchase certain things via widgets. Using cash apps, right? So, and you know, credit cards and that kind of stuff. And she's wondering, well, why can't I do that in my country? I mean, we have such a prolific gaming sector, which I had no idea as well. But is interesting because like that she's 16 years old. She's our future. Like she's I mean, I'm assuming that's her age group, right? Because she looks very young, but that's our future. That's the type of customers we want to serve. So just by her asking that question, it's actually quite optimistic, and it shows a lot of potential for the demand that we have for a cashless economy from the next generation and everyone else around me. For sure, I'm seeing movements in the payment space, which is what we've spoke to, banking. I mean, from everything I've been reading, one of the next largest banks in the world is going to be Alibaba, which no one saw coming. Movement in the gig economy is coming in the Caribbean, you know, which you could not have definitely in our conservative environment predicted that, you know. Consumer tech savvy behavior, it's definitely improving just from that example I gave you. Even just from younger people, like when I say younger, I mean 7, 8 years old, right? And the way they consume, the way they purchase. And if you think about just in a short, 10 to 15 years, they are going to be the main customers. How are we going to serve them? The economy is going to definitely have to shift. The way we work, I mean, I know it's a topic beat to death by now. It's old news in the post-pandemic life, but work from home has definitely shifted in how we engage with employees, how we, motivate them, how we pull productivity, how we educate. has definitely changed and is continuing to change. I think just maybe 5 years ago, personally, if I wanted to become an expert into something, I would look for places that offer short courses or some sort of college. Now I don't. Now I watch 6 YouTube videos, read 5 articles, and I consider myself a somewhat educated on the topic. So I think the way we work, the way we are educated as Caribbean people, are definitely changing. I mean, there's going to be some bad tests as well, like job losses, because you're going to have repetitive tasks no longer being employed for, because they can be, chatbots can handle them, or various different types of widgets and bots can handle them. But there's going to be a significant shift, more than I think I can predict or any of us understand.
Thank you. And Sarah, with that, we want to thank you for giving of your time and sharing from your expertise. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Anything special that the accountants should be looking for in this digital economy?
So no,
You're married to one. We're not so special. We
Yes.
get it.
yeah, exactly. I'm married to one, so that's why I'm scared of all of you. I think with parting words is continue to have the conversation, and I would say continue to look behind the fanciness of our website and what these products offer, and look behind the business model itself and what it really needs. So things I spoke to with regards to mobile wallets needing a larger access of merchants in which they can cash in and cash out, supply chain initiatives that support these websites. I think when we think about the digital economy and digital businesses, we just need to think about them. I guess I would even say probably in a more traditional sense, or connecting them to the traditional bones of businesses, which is staffing, supply chain, etc. Right? And I think that's one of the things that gets lost when people go out into these new ventures. And if I could leave any parting words, it would be, continue to have the conversations and